On July 1st, 2026, Princess Diana would have turned 65 years old. It is a birthday she never reached, a milestone the nation quietly carried for her. And in the days leading up to it, Prince William did something that very few people expected. He did not release a grand statement. He did not stage a public ceremony for the cameras. He did something smaller, quieter, and far more personal. And when the details began to surface, they moved a country that thought it had no tears left for Diana. This is not a story about a press release. It is a story about a son who has spent nearly 30 years learning how to grieve in public while protecting something private. And on his mother's 65th birthday, he made a choice about how she would be remembered and who would carry her forward. Here is what happened. This moment is not just a personal tribute from a grieving son. It touches the emotional center of the entire monarchy. Diana was never only William's mother. She was the most beloved royal of her generation, a woman who reshaped what the public expected the crown to feel like. How her memory is handled is a question of institutional importance, because the monarchy's relationship with Diana has always been complicated, careful, and at times deeply painful. What William did on her 65th birthday quietly answered a question the palace has avoided for years. Who decides how Diana is remembered now? And the answer, it turns out, is no longer the institution. It is her son. To understand why this gesture struck so deeply, we will look at four things. First, the weight of the date itself and why a 65th birthday carries a different kind of grief. Second, the long history of how William has chosen to honor his mother and what makes this year different. Third, the gesture itself broken down piece by piece, including the detail involving Princess Charlotte that left observers in tears. And finally, what this quiet decision means for Diana's legacy and for the next generation that will carry her name. Diana, Princess of Wales, was born on July 1st, 1961 at Park House in Norfolk. She died on August 31st, 1997 at just 36 years old. William was 15. Harry was 12. The image of those two boys walking behind her coffin remains one of the most haunting moments in modern British history. Diana is buried on a small island in the middle of an ornamental lake at Althorp, the Spencer family estate in Northamptonshire. The location was chosen by her brother Charles Spencer, who worried that a public grave would be overwhelmed by visitors. The island is private. It is surrounded by water and trees. For nearly 3 decades, it has remained one of the few places connected to Diana that the public cannot reach and that the palace cannot manage. To understand why the country still mourns her so openly, it helps to remember what she actually changed. Diana walked through an active landmine field in Angola in 1997 to force the world to look at a problem governments ignored. She shook the hand of a man dying of AIDS. At a time when fear and stigma told people not to touch, she brought her young sons to homeless shelters and hospital wards, insisting they see the people the rest of the establishment looked past. She did not simply attend causes. She redefined what royal compassion was allowed to look like. And she did it in a family that often valued restraint over feeling. That is the inheritance William received. Not a title, but a way of moving through the world. A 65th birthday carries its own particular ache. It is the age of retirement, of becoming a grandmother in the ordinary rhythm of life. It is the version of Diana the country never got to meet. The silver-haired campaigner, the doting grandmother to George, Charlotte, and Louis, the elder stateswoman of a family she helped to humanize. Every milestone she misses is a fresh reminder of everything that was taken. William has never been quiet about his grief, but he has always been deliberate about it. In recent years, he has marked his mother's memory in ways that feel chosen rather than performed. On Mother's Day, as reported by Hello magazine, he shared a previously unseen photograph of Diana crouched in a field of flowers, holding a small hand, captioned simply, "Remembering my mother today and every day." Through his Homewoods project, he has carried forward her work on homelessness, the same cause she introduced him to as a child when she brought him and Harry to shelters to meet people the world preferred to ignore. Royal biographer Robert Jobson, who has written extensively about the prince, has long observed that William is determined his children grow up knowing who their grandmother truly was, not as a headline, but as family. That determination has shaped almost every choice he's made about Diana's memory. And this year, it shaped the most personal one yet. According to sources familiar with the family's plans, William approached this birthday differently than any before it. And the way it unfolded came in three parts. The first concerns the visit. Sources close to the household suggest that rather than mark the day with a public appearance, William chose to make a private journey to Althorp. While there is no official confirmation of the visit, those familiar with the family say he wanted to stand at the one place that has always been hers alone, away from cameras, away from the institution on the island where she rests. For a man whose entire life has been lived under observation, choosing privacy was itself the statement. But the visit was not the only thing that happened. The second revelation is about who he brought into the moment. An insider told a royal publication that this year William wanted his children to understand who their grandmother truly was. Not the icon on magazine covers, but the woman who would have adored them. He has reportedly begun sharing her story with George, Charlotte, and Louis in a deliberate way, turning grief into inheritance. Sources say he has been showing them photographs, telling them small, ordinary memories, the kind a mother leaves behind that no biography records. And then comes the third part, the detail that broke through. According to reports, the moment that moved observers most involved, Princess Charlotte, now 11 years old, Charlotte carries Diana's name, and increasingly those close to the family say something of her warmth. It is reported that William spoke with his daughter about the grandmother she shares a name with, and that Charlotte has begun to ask the kind of questions that only a child reaching toward a lost story can ask. One source described it as William handing his daughter not just a memory but a responsibility. The girl named for Diana is old enough now to begin carrying her. To understand why this lands so hard, picture the contrast. For most of his life, William's grief was something the world demanded to see. He was 15 years old when he was asked to walk behind his mother's coffin while millions watched, a decision he has since said no child should ever have to make. His mourning was public property. The institution decided how it looked. This year, the dynamic reversed. There was no procession arranged for the public. No official portrait staged for approval. There was a father, his daughter, and the memory of a woman neither the cameras nor the palace could claim. William has spoken before about wanting his children to know Diana as a person, saying he talks about Granny Diana with them and keeps her present in their home. On her 65th birthday, that quiet promise became something visible. The woman who once said she wanted to be a queen of people's hearts is being remembered not by an institution issuing a statement, but by a son teaching his children her name. There is real emotional weight in that. The sense of a circle slowly closing. Diana raised William to feel things openly in a family that often did not. Now William is raising Charlotte to carry a grandmother she will never meet. The grief did not end. It simply found somewhere new to live. What this means going forward is bigger than a single birthday. For nearly 30 years, the question of how Diana should be remembered has belonged, at least in part, to the institution she both elevated and unsettled. That is changing. Her memory is passing into the hands of the children and grandchildren, who knew her only through her son's quiet insistence that she not be forgotten. A 65th birthday she never reached has become a kind of turning point. Diana will not grow old, but the little girl who carries her name is growing up. And somewhere in that ordinary fact lies the strange comfort of how the people we lose continue to live. Not in monuments, not in statements,